Last week we got the chance to participate in Diablo IV beta weekends, both the early access and the open beta, and I see a lot of people sharing their thoughts about their experience in the game. A lot of controversy around the Necromancer being overpowered, the Druid being absolute trash, for example, while I have very different thoughts about them. So yeah, after spending over 70 hours in the beta with all the different classes, leveling up every single one of them to 25, getting a full legendary loadout and pretty much clearing all the dungeons, I kind of want to share my thoughts about the game, what I thought was really nice about it, what I definitely think needs improving before the game officially releases, some balancing tweaks and possibly new ways of making things a lot easier for everyone. So without further ado, let's get right to it. Alright, so first off, it's still very much beta, ladies and gentlemen. We only saw level 25, while there was also a 300% increased drop chance for legendary. So this doesn't give us a good idea of what the real leveling experience is gonna be like. It is true though that some classes were a little bit more dependent on the legendary aspects, while we also haven't seen all the class bonuses. For example, the Druid's bonus wasn't implemented yet, so it's very difficult to determine what this is gonna look like when we actually see all the classes on maximum level with their full builds, as I kinda had an idea. Once you get a good build going with Druid specifically, my Earth Landslide build, I felt like I was one-shotting at times, which was very satisfying. While Necromancer, I think, is definitely gonna have a lot of problems endgame if mobs start to move a lot faster, deal more damage, as it only has one escape ability at the moment, which if you burn through that and stumble upon another pretty big target, let's say, it can be lethal for you. Anyways, that being said, I played all the different classes to level 25 in the 2 weekends, got a full legendary loadout, checked out different builds, also shared them on the channel, but surprisingly, I enjoyed some classes a lot more over others, which I thought were gonna be my first picks for the full release. For example, the Rogue. I didn't really enjoy Demon Hunter on Diablo 3, as it was literally bullet spraying. But the melee rogue was actually a lot of fun to play. Snappy combat, the spell rotation was very satisfying, and there are just so many possibilities in terms of building. While I also had a lot of fun playing Sorcerer in Diablo 3, especially Arcane, this one, I don't know, felt a little bit boring to play, as you were just a little bit too tanky. But once again, it's still beta, so who knows how this is gonna be balanced towards the full game. Same counts for the Barbarian. I kind of felt it was pretty strong, primarily because of its shouts, which boosted all your teammates in the area, especially with boss fights and even the World Boss Ashava. But yeah, the Whirlwind build which I made was just super satisfying to clear big packs of mobs. You're just spinning around on the battlefield with those dust tornadoes, while my Rend damage was also pretty insane on the exact same build. So for both AoE and single target damage on this level was just super satisfying to play. So I'm very much looking forward to what Barbarian has in store for us on maximum level, especially because you also have this arsenal system, which adds so much more depth to the class. You can just use different types of weapons to apply different bonuses. For example, while you have 4 different weapons to choose from, 4 different aspects which you can apply, which can make this class super powerful towards the end game. I wasn't certain about the Necromancer until some of my friends said it's pretty similar to the Witch Doctor, which I did really enjoy, but I wasn't so sure about all those pets, and I saw many builds where people just face rolled all the dungeons with like a huge army of the dead, but I kind of played this one without any pets, just to make my own character a lot more powerful. And that's where I came up with this Bone Spear build, which literally hits like a truck, which was very satisfying to also sometimes one-shot elites. But yeah, I also have concerns about Necromancer becoming very weak towards the end game. Many people say it's OP right now, while it also doesn't have many means of escaping from sticky situations. As of right now, we only have the Blood Mist, and once you've casted it, you become immune and unstoppable, which is nice and all, but then you have to wait for a pretty long time before it gets on cooldown again. So if you're getting hammered by, for example, the Butcher, which you can see in this little fragment, it's gonna be pretty difficult to escape from him. And I happened to just juke him around this little wall, eventually allowing me to take the kill on him. But if you don't have something like this, if the pathing of the AI gets improved, let's say, you're probably gonna get destroyed by him in the wrong circumstances. Also want to mention Rogue for a second right here, as I literally had 8 ways to escape from sticky situations. 2 times a Cult Traps, 2 times a Shadow Step with some upgrades, 2 dashes, but also 2 evades on my boots. So it was super easy to just dance around on the battlefield, especially against bosses. But yeah, very much looking forward how this is gonna play out with the full release. Since we're talking about balancing and classes, I also quickly want to talk about build options, as with some classes it felt a little bit more limited, while with other classes you had a lot of different options you were able to explore. For example, with Druid we have the possibility to go Werewolf, Werebear, go with a Wind build, Lightning build, Earth build, while with Necromancer and especially Sorcerer I didn't feel like I had all those options. With Sorcerer, it felt pretty obvious to go for Lightning because it was super powerful. Barely saw anyone using a Fire build. So yeah, sometimes it did feel like everyone was playing the exact same build, but obviously people are checking out builds on the internet, seeing what works best or is the most powerful to roll with. While I think the end game, the Paragon system, is gonna introduce many different ways how we can further customize these builds. So I think this is also a little bit too early to judge the game on, let's say. But what is pretty obvious is that we saw a lot of repetitiveness in the dungeons. The dungeon design was pretty simple, I would say. I mean, in Diablo 3, I remember going through those dungeon in dungeons or sub-dungeons. Sometimes it felt like you're spending hours and hours in one single dungeon, finding secret chambers with more treasure or more enemies to deal with. With Diablo 4, we either had the dungeons with a simple objective to just pick up A, B, and C, then open up a door, go to the final boss room, or place a couple items on pedestals, and that was basically it. While the cellars also felt quite boring, and I didn't really feel the need to explore them in the open world, as every time when you visited those places, you would only find maybe an elite boss or a random chest, while in the past I felt like they were so much more challenging. Again, we don't know how this is gonna play out with a full release, as we only had the option to check out the easy and veteran difficulty, but I sincerely hope these sellers are gonna become so much more interesting, as now they, in my opinion, were a little bit boring. What I think would be an awesome solution to the dungeon design is if they hide some secret chambers on the sides. So in every nook and cranny, you have a chance to stumble upon, I don't know, a new treasure room or an extra boss room or a cellar inside a dungeon, which could potentially have a lot of elites in there, or I don't know, legendary treasure, let's say. As right now, you feel like you have to visit the entire place to pick up some things or activate triggers to get to the main boss room. But if you have more dungeons in dungeon rooms or extra rooms on the side, I think that is going to make it a lot more interesting and a lot more fun to dungeon crawl for hours and hours. What I absolutely loved about the dungeons though is the teleport system. It was super simple yet satisfying. Every time when you open up your scroll to teleport back to the hometown to do a little bit of shopping, selling your items, let's say, or to use the portal to visit one of your friends who is already fighting a boss, let's say. This was a pretty good system and it felt very fluent or smooth. What I think would be an awesome addition to it though is that if you reset a dungeon, then you just have one loading screen, which will instantly bring you back to the beginning of the dungeon instead of at the entrance outside of it, because then you actually have to deal with 2 loading screens, which I didn't find a real problem as my loading speeds were pretty fast. But if you're playing on an older gen console, I think this can definitely save a lot of time if they make this a little bit more efficient. Something I didn't like that much is that every time when you picked up some gems, you obviously wanted to keep them in your bags, or kind of, because you wanted to use them pretty quickly if you find an upgrade for your weapon. So if you were like me, you probably carried a lot of gems with you during the beta and only every now and then place them in your stash, because yeah, they just take up so much bag space. So I think it would be awesome if they made a separate inventory where you can just stash all your gems. which you will have with you all the time, as if you place them in your chest, you can also access them with your different characters. So I think it would make a lot more sense if the gems are just shared among the characters in a separate inventory from your main, just like the plants which you gather to craft potions, let's say. Well, I thought it was also pretty annoying to constantly having to return to town and do all the inventory sorting. Check out which items are going to be interesting to keep and which you have to sell. So I think it would be nice if they added some kind of sorting system or, I don't know, visual indications with strength or attack speed, like special bonuses you're looking for, or easier readability on all the items. Sometimes it also said plus resistance, plus attack speed, plus strength. And on the other item, the resistance or the attack speed is in a different order. So if they at least fix that order, you know where to search for certain attributes. Let me know in the comments if this also frustrated you. I don't know, I think it would make it so much easier if we can sort and have fixed stat attribute places. Then we also have the legendary aspects. There are about 34 to 35 per class. I think only one class had 34, which was pretty weird, but I assume these are going to be pretty much all the aspects you can get your hands on in the full release. So these are basically the legendary bonuses which you can put on your gear, both found inside dungeons or of course if you extract the aspect from the items themselves. So these give us much more possibilities in terms of building and customizing our character, while sometimes it also felt unnecessary to go through this entire process to get rid of the aspects from certain items. I mean, it would make a lot of sense. Once your character unlocks a certain aspect, you will have access to it forever. So then possibly in exchange for certain materials you get from salvaging legendaries, you can put said aspect on another item without constantly having to farm for a certain aspect on an item, which you're gonna destroy anyways. But if you have bad luck, let's say, find 50 different legendary bracers with not a single aspect you need, yeah, that just really sucks. So yeah, if we have lower legendary drop chance, I think that would make a lot more sense. Let me know in the comments what you think. But once again, this is based off the beta info. Who knows, they're gonna have an awesome solution for us for the end game. For example, with the curiosity vendor, you can purchase legendaries and it's pretty easy to unlock certain aspects. So if we have a lot of world events, can get our hands on tons and tons of these obols. And yeah, talking about these obols, the events where you can get your hands on them, I really like these random encounters. I mean, you're just walking out there on your own and all of a sudden you see a orange circle popping up on your minimap. And you're like, all right, let's get our hands on some obols. And you see some random people right there. You get to meet new people in this MMO vibe, let's say, which I thought was pretty good. Sometimes though, if you were walking through different parts of the map, getting teleported back, which was a little bit weird, but I'm sure they're gonna fix this with the full release. And yeah, I just had a lot of fun just playing the game myself while also randomly stumbling upon others. Especially with the Ashava event, the World Boss, which we saw in the Fractured Peaks. I do have to say though that I heavily relied on the Discord they shared for the betas, as it shared the times when Ashava spawns, and it was also pretty difficult to determine when it actually happened in game. I mean, we didn't get a notification on the other side of the world of Fractured Peaks, or even a zone right next to it didn't get the announcement. So you actually had to be in the very same zone to see the event pop up, and also the timer that indicates when he actually spawned in. So I think it's going to be more interesting if they add these timers and announcement in some kind of world chat or an event announcement, let's say. So it's going to be a lot easier to gather groups of people, so you don't have to fight the boss yourself. While for the smaller encounters or events, I do think that they need a very small radius. So it's going to be much more difficult to determine where they pop up, let's say, and you're going to be surprised more often. That is definitely something you want to search for, I think, with an open world design like this. The element of surprise that you can just suddenly get into this event fight with some other people, which you didn't expect to happen in the first place. During the beta weekend, we also only saw 2 Ashava events on an entire day, followed up like 2 hours or 3 hours after each other. On Saturday, this was in the evening for my time, Central Europe time, and on Sunday, this was very early in the morning. Now I'm thinking about people with shifts at work, like night shifts or day shifts, or having to take care of children or cooking. I think they should make these hours fixed, like at 3 a.m., 6 a.m., noon, 3 p.m., 6 p.m., 9 p.m., something like that, so everybody has the chance to participate in these events, because otherwise it's just going to be unfair. And I don't think everybody wants to rely on a Discord group where the times are going to be shared. You just want to know when events happen. Who knows, there's going to be an in-game calendar for it, just like we have with World of Warcraft. So yeah, definitely things they should improve before the game gets released. Anyways, enough about the world boss. I absolutely loved how the level scaling was done in this game, how it was optimized in terms of being able to perfectly fine level up with somebody of level 5, let's say, while I was almost level 25, or the other way around. I mean, we had absolutely no issues tackling bosses with a super low level person in our party, while it also didn't struggle themselves. So yeah, this was pretty well done, and I think it's gonna be awesome if you're just playing with a bunch of friends. They can just hop into the lobby and just play along for a couple dungeons, then continue on their own character, single player. And yeah, it just felt very smooth. Well, it also did feel a little bit less rewarding when playing with friends in terms of the bonuses you get. For example, if you're playing with a full squad of 4 people, you only, I think, get this 5% XP bonus, and that is basically it. While the HP of the mobs does scale up big time. So say they are all visiting town just to empty their bags, and you're just trying to clear the dungeon on your own, it will make things a lot more complicated. So then you will kind of have a feeling like, okay, maybe I should just leave the party for now, continue on my own. Well, it would be more awesome if this actually makes it easier when they're in town, like scale up again when they teleport back into the dungeon. I think this does need a little bit more work. Otherwise, people are gonna feel more forced to leave a party if they are alone in a dungeon for a couple minutes, let's say. I'm not sure if you guys think about it the same way, but I think it would make a lot more sense that the scaling only happens depending on the amount of people inside the dungeon. So yeah, there you have it. A lot of things I am very much looking forward to, but also things I am a little bit concerned about if they stay like this with a full release. Definitely need some improvements, some balancing, but I would love to hear what you guys thought about the beta. Share it in the comments down below. Would love to read those complaints, let's say, but also the things you absolutely loved about the beta and can't wait to see with the full release. Ladies and gentlemen, a big thanks for watching. Definitely be sure to leave a like if you enjoyed watching this video. And of course, stay tuned for more, as a lot more Diablo 4 is coming your way. I've got plenty more videos for the game in the comments down below. But right now it's 4 AM out. I want to wish you an awesome day. I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Peace.